My name is Stacy Wheeler, 35, and I never thought my family would betray me so blatantly. Picture this: a swanky restaurant in Austin's South Congress, the kind where you dress up just to feel worthy of the menu. I walked in, expecting a rare family dinner, but what I got was a slap in the face. My mom slid a basket of bread my way, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "We didn't order for you, sweetheart." My sister, smirking, sliced into a $500 steak, her husband chuckling. "Maybe she's on a diet." My dad chimed in. "You're always so picky." "Stacy." The table erupted in laughter, their plates piled high with dishes I'd never afford on my own. I sat there, gripping that bread basket, my heart pounding. They thought they could humiliate me, use me, like they had for years. But I was done. I stood up, dropped my credit card on the table, and said one word: "Enjoy." Then I walked out, their laughter echoing behind me. They had no idea what was coming. "Stick around, you won't believe how they paid for that meal." Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment about your wildest family drama. Let's see who can top this. 2 hours before that dinner, I had no clue what was coming. I got a text from my mom: "Family dinner tonight, South Congress. 7 p.m. Don't be late. Stacy." No menu, no details, just an order to show up. I thought it was a chance to reconnect, maybe even feel like a family again. I put on my best dress, drove to the restaurant, and walked in with a smile. The hostess led me to a private table where my parents, my sister, and her husband were already seated, their plates gleaming with food. My mom looked up, barely acknowledging me, and slid a basket of bread across the table. "We didn't order for you, sweetheart," she said, her voice syrupy but cold. My sister, slicing into a $500 steak, smirked without looking up. Her husband leaned back, chuckling. "Maybe she's on a diet," he said, loud enough for the table to hear. My dad, swirling his wine, added, "You're always so picky, Stacy." Their laughter hit me like a punch. I stared at the bread, my stomach twisting, not from hunger but from the weight of their dismissal. I gripped the basket, my knuckles white. They thought they could treat me like this, like I was nothing more than their personal bank account. My sister's fork clinked against her plate, her diamond bracelet bought with my money flashing under the chandelier. Her husband sipped his cocktail, grinning like he'd won something. My parents didn't even look at me, too busy praising my sister's success as a freelancer. I felt the room shrink, their voices blurring into a hum of entitlement. I'd had enough. I reached into my purse, pulled out my credit card, and set it on the table with a soft thud. "Enjoy," I said, my voice steady but sharp. I stood, turned, and walked out, their laughter trailing behind me. My mom called out, "She's so dramatic." As the door swung shut, they had no idea that was the last time I'd let them walk over me. But to understand why I snapped, you need to know what led to that moment. For 15 years, I'd been their safety net. When I was 20, just starting my career in tech, my parents begged me to pay for my sister's college tuition. "She's got so much potential," my mom said, eyes misty. I worked overtime, skipped vacations, and handed over $30,000 for her degree. She graduated, but instead of a job, she bought a BMW with my money. My parents called it a graduation gift. When I got my first big promotion at 25, I planned a small celebration. My dad shut it down. "Your sister needs a new laptop," he said. I canceled my party and wrote the check. Year after year, I paid their bills: electricity, water, even their mortgage, while they threw lavish parties for my sister's achievements. My milestones ignored, my sacrifices expected. One memory burns the brightest. My 30th birthday was supposed to be special. I'd saved for months to host a dinner with friends. 2 days before, my mom called. "Your sister's planning her engagement party," she said. "We need your help with the venue." I drained my savings, gave them $10,000, and spent my birthday alone, eating takeout pizza. My sister's party had a live band, open bar, the works all on my dime. When I asked my dad why they never celebrated me, he shrugged. "You're fine, Stacy. You always are." That's when I realized to them, I was just a resource, not a daughter. Walking out of that restaurant, I felt something shift. For years, I'd let guilt keep me chained to their demands. No more. I drove home, my hands steady on the wheel, my mind racing with what I'd do next. I wasn't just walking away from a dinner, I was walking away from their control. 3 days after I walked out, my family got a wake-up call. My dad sat at his desk, scrolling through emails, when one from the bank stopped him cold. Account closed. It read, "The joint family fund I'd been pouring money into for years gone." He stared at the screen, his face pale, muttering, "She wouldn't dare." But I did. I'd called the bank the morning after the dinner, instructing them to lock it down. No more withdrawals, no more leeching off my savings. My dad tried calling me, but I'd blocked his number. He didn't get to guilt me anymore. My mom, desperate, borrowed a friend's phone to reach me. "Stacy." "What's going on?" she asked, her voice sharp with panic. "The account's frozen. We need that money." I leaned back in my chair, staring out my apartment window, my tone ice cold. "The restaurant bill was my goodbye gift," I said. "Figure it out." She gasped, then launched into a tirade. "You're so selfish." "After everything we've done for you," I hung up, my hands shaking but my resolve firm. She didn't get to rewrite history. For years, I'd been the one paying for their generosity to my sister, and I was done letting them play the victim. Meanwhile, my sister was having her own meltdown. She logged into her personal account, expecting to see the usual balance padded with my contributions money I'd funneled for her college, her car, her endless emergencies. Instead, she found nothing. Zero. The funds I'd set up for her tuition and that BMW were tied to the joint account, now inaccessible. She screamed at her husband. "How am I supposed to pay for anything?" He slammed his fist on the table, his face red. "Your sister's psycho," he shouted, pacing their overpriced condo, another purchase I'd unknowingly subsidized. My sister scrolled through her phone, her fingers trembling. Realizing the safety net she'd taken for granted was gone, she didn't call me. She knew better. Their panic wasn't my problem anymore, but it stirred something in me. I drove to a coffee shop in Austin's Domain, where my best friend, Danielle, was waiting. She'd been my rock since college, always calling out my family's nonsense when I was too blind to see it. I slid into the booth, my shoulders heavy. "They're freaking out," I told her, stirring my latte. I shut down the account. Her eyes lit up. "Good for you," she said, leaning forward. "But you need to dig deeper. They've been using you for years, there's got to be more." I frowned, her words sinking in. What else had they hidden? I'd always trusted them with our joint account, assuming they'd manage it fairly. Now, I wasn't so sure. Danielle sipped her coffee, her expression serious. "You should check the account history," she said. "Every transaction, every withdrawal. I bet you'll find something." I nodded, a knot forming in my chest. I'd spent years working overtime, building my career in tech, while they spent my money like it was theirs. The thought of them hiding more made my blood boil. I pulled out my phone and emailed my bank, requesting a full transaction report. "I'm not letting them get away with this," I told Danielle. She smiled, raising her cup. "That's the Stacy I know. by the time I got home. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been played for far too long. I sat at my desk, staring at my laptop, waiting for the bank's response. My phone buzzed with texts from unknown numbers, probably my sister or her husband trying to get through. I ignored them. My focus was on the truth now, not their excuses. I wasn't just fighting for my money, I was fighting for my dignity. And I was ready to uncover whatever they'd been hiding. 10 days later, my sister took things too far. I pulled up to my boutique in Austin's Domain, ready to open for the day. When I saw it, the word thief scrawled in red spray paint across the front window. The power was out, wires dangling from the breaker box in the alley. My heart sank, but I didn't panic. I knew who did this. My sister had always been petty, but this was a new low. I grabbed my phone, called a security company, and had cameras installed by noon. Every angle of the storefront, back, interior, was now under surveillance. If she came back, I'd have proof. I swept up the mess, called an electrician, and reopened by evening. My jaw clenched but my focus sharp. I wasn't going to let her ruin what I'd built. That night, I met Danielle at her office. She'd been digging into the bank records I'd requested, and her friend Andrew, a forensic accountant, was there to help. "You need to see this," Danielle said, sliding a stack of papers across her desk. Andrew pointed to a series of transactions, his voice calm but serious. "Your sister's been siphoning money," he said. "Over $50,000, withdrawn in small chunks over years." I stared at the numbers, my chest tightening. Every withdrawal was a betrayal money I'd earned through late nights and missed weekends, funneled straight to her. I thought of the BMW, the condo, her freelance lifestyle. It wasn't just carelessness, it was theft. Danielle leaned back, her eyes narrowing. "There's more," she said. "Remember that marketing contract you lost 2 years ago, the big one with the Austin startup?" I nodded, the memory stinging. It was a 6-figure deal that could have taken my career to the next level. "Your sister pitched them behind your back," Danielle said. "She used your proposal, swapped her name in, and tanked the project. They never told you because she begged them to stay quiet." My hands curled into fists. I'd spent months on that proposal, pouring my expertise into every detail, only to lose it to her sabotage. She hadn't just taken my money, she'd stolen my opportunities. I paced the room, my mind racing. This wasn't just about family drama anymore. It was personal. I grabbed my phone and dialed Nicole, a lawyer I'd met through a networking event. She picked up on the second ring. "Nicole, it's Stacy," I said, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside. "I need you to prepare a lawsuit. My family's been stealing from me, and I have proof." She didn't hesitate. "Send me everything," she said. "Bank records, camera footage, anything you've got. We'll build a case." I hung up, feeling a weight lift. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting, I was fighting back. By the next morning, Andrew had emailed me a detailed report, highlighting every unauthorized withdrawal. Danielle sent me screenshots of emails she'd dug up, confirming my sister's role in the marketing deal. I forwarded it all to Nicole, who was already drafting legal documents. My boutique was back online, the paint scrubbed off, the power restored. But I wasn't done. I walked through the store, checking the cameras, knowing my sister wouldn't stop. She thought she could break me, but she was wrong. I'd built this business from nothing, and I'd protect it with everything I had. This was my line in the sand. 3 weeks later, my sister's attacks got uglier. I woke up to a flood of notifications on my phone, hateful comments on my boutique's social media pages. My sister had posted a rant online, calling me a greedy liar who'd abandoned our family. Strangers chimed in, accusing me of being heartless, their words stinging like needles. I scrolled through the posts, my stomach churning at the lies. She'd twisted the truth, painting herself as the victim while my business took the hit. Customers canceled orders. Citing her exposé, I clenched my phone, determined not to let her sabotage my livelihood. I saved every post, every comment, knowing my cameras weren't the only evidence I'd need. Then things got worse. One morning, I arrived at my boutique in the Domain to find the front window shattered, glass scattered across the sidewalk. The security footage was crystal clear, my sister and her husband, hooded but recognizable, swinging a bat at the glass in the dead of night. My heart pounded. Not from fear but from fury. They thought they could scare me into backing down. I called Danielle, my voice shaking with anger. They broke my window, I said. She was at the store in 20 minutes, helping me sweep up the debris. We pulled the footage, time-stamped and undeniable, and backed it up to a secure drive. "This is gold," Danielle said, her eyes gleaming. "They just handed you the case." With the evidence piling up, I knew I had to confront my mom. I drove to my parents' house in Austin suburbs, my hands tight on the wheel. When I walked in, my mom was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup like nothing was wrong. "Mom, we need to talk," I said, my tone firm. She barely looked up. "If this is about your sister, save it," she snapped. I laid out everything Holly's lies online: the shattered window, the stolen money, the marketing deal she'd sabotaged. "You need to stop her," I said. My mom's face hardened. "She's just upset. You froze our account." "Stacy, what did you expect?" I stared at her, stunned. She was defending the vandalism, the theft, the betrayal. "You're choosing her over me," I said, my voice breaking. She shrugged. "You've always been fine on your own." That was it, the final straw. I walked out, my chest heavy but my mind clear. I wasn't just fighting for justice anymore. I was fighting for my freedom from their toxic grip. Back at my apartment, I met Danielle for coffee. She scrolled through the footage again, her jaw tight. "You've got enough to bury them," she said. I nodded, my resolve hardening. I emailed Nicole, my lawyer, attaching the new evidence screenshots of the online posts, the video of the vandalism, and a detailed timeline of every attack. "Add this to the lawsuit," I wrote. Nicole replied within the hour. "This strengthens our case. We're ready." As I walked through my boutique the next day, inspecting the new window, I felt a strange calm. The hate online hadn't stopped, but I was done letting it define me. I posted a statement on my store's page, not addressing the lies directly but thanking my loyal customers for their support. Orders started coming back, slowly but surely. My sister and her husband could try to break me, but I wasn't the same pushover they'd relied on for years. I was done being their scapegoat, their bank, their doormat. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at the evidence I'd gathered. I wasn't just cutting them off financially, I was cutting them out of my life for good. 4 months after the dinner, I faced my family in court. The Austin courthouse was packed, the air heavy with tension. I sat beside Nicole, my lawyer, gripping the edge of the table as she laid out our case. She presented the bank records, showing $50,000 siphoned by my sister over years. Next came the security footage, my sister and her husband smashing my boutique's window, their faces clear despite the hoods. Nicole displayed screenshots of the online posts, each one branding me a liar, a traitor. "This is deliberate harm," she told the judge, her voice steady. "Stacy Wheeler has endured financial theft, vandalism, and defamation from her own family." I glanced at my parents, my sister, and her husband across the room. Their eyes avoided mine, but I saw my mom's jaw tighten, my dad's hands fidgeting. Their lawyer, Martin, stood to defend them. He was a wiry man with a smug grin, hired by my parents to spin their story. My clients acted out of desperation, he argued, gesturing toward my sister. They were cut off financially without warning. Stacy's actions pushed them to the edge. He claimed the vandalism was a moment of frustration and the online posts were just venting. I nearly laughed. Venting. Stealing $50,000 and shattering my store's window wasn't venting, it was malice, Nicole countered, pointing to the timestamps on the bank withdrawals, predating my decision to freeze the account. This was planned, she said, holding up the marketing contract my sister had sabotaged. They targeted Stacy's livelihood long before the dinner. Martin faltered, his arguments unraveling as Nicole dismantled his claims with precision. The judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward. She reviewed the evidence, her pen tapping the bench. My sister shifted in her seat, whispering to her husband, who glared at me. My parents sat stiffly, their faces a mix of defiance and shame. After what felt like hours, the judge spoke. "The evidence is overwhelming," she said, her voice cutting through the room. The defendants engaged in theft, vandalism, and defamation. I order them to pay $30,000 in damages to Miss Wheeler. She paused, her gaze locking onto my family. Additionally, a restraining order is granted. You are prohibited from contacting Miss Wheeler or approaching her business. The gavel slammed, echoing in my chest. My family's faces crumpled. My sister's eyes widened. My mom's head dropped. My dad's shoulders slumped. I exhaled, a weight lifting off me. Nicole squeezed my arm, whispering, "We did it." I nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. As we left the courtroom, I felt their stares burning into my back. But I didn't turn around. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying their burdens. The $30,000 would help repair my boutique. But the restraining order meant more. It was my freedom. I'd spent so long trying to please them, to be the good daughter, only to be used and discarded. Now, the law had drawn a line they couldn't cross. Outside, I stood on the courthouse steps, the Austin sun warm on my face. Nicole was already planning the next steps, ensuring the damages were collected. I thanked her, my voice steady but soft. The victory wasn't just about money or justice, it was about reclaiming my life. I'd fought for myself, and I'd won. As I drove home, the city blurring past, I felt lighter than I had in years. My family's hold on me was broken, and I was finally free to move forward. 6 months later, my family's world had collapsed. My parents' marriage, built on years of enabling my sister, crumbled under the weight of their financial ruin. My dad moved out of their suburban Austin home, leaving my mom to sort through the wreckage of their debts. I heard through a mutual friend that they'd filed for divorce, unable to agree on how to handle the $30,000 court penalty. My mom tried selling their house to cover it, but the market was brutal, and she was stuck in a cycle of bills and regret. I felt a pang of sadness for them, but it was fleeting. They'd made their choices, and I wasn't responsible for fixing them anymore. My sister and her husband faced their own reckoning. Their lavish lifestyle, funded by my money, imploded. They declared bankruptcy, their condo foreclosed, and the BMW, once a symbol of my sister's success, was sold at auction to pay creditors. I saw the car listed online, its glossy photos a stark contrast to their reality. My sister's social media went silent, her rants replaced by a hollow absence. Her husband's bravado was gone too. A neighbor told me he'd taken a low-paying job to make ends meet. Their downfall didn't bring me joy, but it felt like justice, a consequence of their greed and betrayal. Meanwhile, I poured my energy into my boutique. The domain was buzzing again, and my store was thriving. The $30,000 settlement helped replace the shattered window and cover repairs, But my real success came from new customers drawn to my resilience. I expanded the shop, adding a cozy corner for custom orders. To keep up, I hired Sophie, a bright young designer with a knack for marketing. She walked in on her first day, her smile infectious, and said, "This place feels like home." I trained her myself, teaching her the inventory system and my vision for the brand. Watching her charm customers reminded me why I'd fought so hard to protect this business. It wasn't just a store, it was my legacy. One evening, Danielle stopped by the boutique, carrying a bottle of sparkling cider. "To new beginnings," she said, raising a glass. We sat in the back office, the store quiet after a busy day. I told her about the expansion, Sophie's ideas, and how I'd started taking weekends off for the first time in years. "You're glowing," Danielle said, her eyes warm. "You're not just surviving, you're thriving." I smiled, sipping the cider, feeling the truth of her words, without my family's demands. I had space to breathe, to dream. I'd enrolled in a photography class, something I'd always wanted to try, and planned a trip to the Texas coast. My life was mine again. As we talked, I realized how far I'd come. The pain of my family's betrayal still lingered. But it no longer defined me. I'd built a business, a team, a future none of which they could touch. Sophie popped into the office, holding a sketch for a new display. "What do you think?" she asked, her enthusiasm contagious. I nodded, impressed, and sent her back to the floor. Danielle grinned. "You've got this," she said. I looked around the boutique, its shelves stocked, its lights glowing. This was my victory, not just over my family, but over the version of myself that had let them hold me back for so long. 1 year later, my life was unrecognizable. My boutique in Austin's Domain had grown so much that I opened a second location downtown, its sleek glass storefront glowing under the city lights. Customers lined up for the launch, drawn by the story of my resilience and Sophie's viral marketing campaigns. I walked through the new store, running my fingers over the racks of curated designs, feeling a surge of pride. This wasn't just a business, it was proof I could build something unbreakable, no matter what my family had thrown at me. Sophie had become my right hand, and I promoted her to manager of the original store. She strode into my office one morning, her confidence radiating. "The team's ready for the holiday rush," she said, handing me a detailed sales plan. I smiled, impressed by her knack for leadership. "You're killing it, Sophie," I told her. She grinned, her eyes bright. "Learned from the best." Watching her take charge felt like passing a torch, not to a family member who'd betrayed me, but to someone who earned my trust. The Domain store thrived under her, freeing me to focus on the new location and bigger dreams. Then, one quiet afternoon, a letter arrived at my apartment. The handwriting was unmistakable, my mom's. My heart skipped, but I steeled myself and opened it. Inside, Patricia wrote about her regret, her divorce, and how she missed me. "Can we talk?" she pleaded, promising to make things right. I sat at my kitchen table, the words blurring as memories of her dismissal flooded back. She'd chosen my sister over me, defended their lies and vandalism. I wrote a single line in response: "I've moved on." I mailed it back, my hands steady. There was no room for her in my life, not after everything. The restraining order still stood, and so did my resolve. I shifted my focus to the future. At a local business expo, I met Emma, a sharp entrepreneur with a knack for retail analytics. Over coffee at a bustling Austin cafe, she pitched a partnership to scale my brand online. "Your story is inspiring," she said, her voice earnest. "Let's take it national." I leaned forward, Intrigued by her data-driven approach, we spent hours sketching out plans, e-commerce platforms, targeted ads, even a potential pop-up in Dallas. Emma's energy was infectious, and for the first time, I saw my business as more than a local success. We shook hands, sealing a deal that felt like the start of something massive. As I drove home, the Austin skyline glowing in the distance, I reflected on the past year. My family's betrayal had pushed me to the edge, but it also forced me to fight for myself. The lawsuits, the vandalism, the lies, they were scars, but they didn't define me. I'd built 2 thriving stores, a loyal team, and a life I loved. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie, confirming record sales at the domain. I smiled, knowing I'd made the right choice. This was my world now, built on my terms, and I was ready for whatever came next.